Hi, hello, welcome. Yes, I'm still in the same house. The Sydney real estate market is crazy at the moment. So I am trying to move. I'm trying my best. You know, this house doesn't want to let me go, and I wish it would. But welcome back to another week. Welcome back to your cozy corner of the internet. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you're having a great month. How the heck are we in July? What do you mean? What do you mean half the year's gone? Anyway, before we get into this week's video, I have to do the obligatory. Please like, please subscribe. If you feel like giving the video a little share, I wouldn't say no to that. But please like and subscribe and leave a comment, because first of all, it helps the algorithm. But second of all, your gal's depressed and it's nice having people to chat to in the comments. Not me out here begging for social interaction. If you are like me, you probably have a job. Try as I might, try as I'm trying to get monetized, this is not my job. This is something that I love to do and it's my creative outlet and I fit it in around my job, but I do have a 9 to 5, like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 corporate job. And I do like my job. The company I work for is great. My manager's great. So all of that to say is that life gets busy. You know, life gets hard, life gets tough. We're living in that cost of living crisis. Late stage capitalism is causing the world to slowly burn down around us as we watch in real time on the news and social media. I'm having a great time, guys. With all of that, it can be really difficult to find ways to fit your hobbies in. And I'm sure the video that we're about to get into, you could probably apply some of the tips to other hobbies if reading isn't necessarily your thing, although why are you watching this if it's not? If reading isn't necessarily your thing, I'm sure you could apply some of these tips to your other hobbies or things that you enjoy doing but really struggle to find time for, because life is just hectic. So this video is about if you are someone who works full-time, or you're a student full-time, or you just struggle with time management and you are looking to try and find a way to fit more reading in your everyday, this video is for you. So we're going to get into some of my personal, tried, tested techniques. If these don't work for you, I'm sorry, I'm not a paid professional, okay? Honestly, the biggest tip I could give to some of you ADHD baddies out there is get some Ritalin. Oh my God, it's life-changing. When you're medicated, it's like playing life on easy mode. Anyway, that's not the point of this video. So tip numero uno. I'm gonna get the boring one out of the way, which is to have a schedule. Yes, that's right, folks. I'm telling you to get a schedule. I am someone who really can't maintain a schedule. My brain, the ADHD do be ADHDing. I'm not the best at maintaining my own schedules. If it's like my work schedule, I'm great at maintaining that because I have to. But if it's something that I have set, I'm really bad at doing it. However, I can recognize that not everyone watching this video is neurospicy like me, and some of you might be really good at keeping and maintaining a schedule. So the first boring tip I'm going to say is fit it into your schedule. If you're someone who has what's that thing where it's like my 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. before my 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. thing, if you're someone that is really good at having a morning routine, at maintaining that morning routine, put in 10, 20, 30 minutes for reading into your morning routine, or work it into your night routine. Personally, I am someone that struggles to sleep, again with the ADHD, so I find reading just before bed is a really, really good way to wind my brain down. Did you know that screens are bad for you before you go to bed? So I know that's a really boring, obvious tip. We're gonna get into the good stuff later, but I had to get the boring one out of the way, which is if you have a schedule, just carve out a little 10 minutes, because guess what? If you're finding 3 10-minute pockets of time, some quick math for you here, guys, that's 30 minutes of reading a day. And considering that the average person reads 4 or less books in a year, if you're finding 30 minutes every single day to read, you're gonna get through some stuff. My second tip is kind of like a two-parter, which is take your book everywhere / get a Kindle. I know. Calm down with the booze. I know I am a physical book girly. You may have noticed I'm a physical book girly. I understand that for a lot of people, a Kindle would be a very, very handy thing to have. Books are big, right? Books, especially if you're reading something chunky, books are a lot to carry around. They're heavy, they're cumbersome, they can be really large, they can be really thick. A Kindle, She's slim, she's slick, she's svelte, she's fitting in anything.
Yas Queen, Skinny Legend, Versace boots the house down. Slay Queen, Hunty Mama, and Oop Daddy work. Charlie X, yes, snatch my wig.
Like, you could probably fit a Kindle in the back pocket of your jeans. So if you are someone who is really, really dedicated, as in you're willing to drop money on upping your reading game, I would really suggest getting a Kindle, because that is something that you can take everywhere. It will fit in your work backpack. It will fit in your tiny little handbag that you take out that barely fits anything. It will fit in your coat pocket. It will fit in your bra. That there are so many places you can tuck a Kindle. I would highly recommend, if you are really serious about upping your game, get yourself a Kindle, or better yet, get a Kobo, because we don't stand Amazon on this channel. Get a Kobo, get a Kindle, get something that you can easily take around. Even an iPad. You can read book, you can download the PDF, read it on your iPad, read it on your phone, but make reading super accessible. So you're meeting your friend for dinner, she's running 10 minutes late, read. You're waiting for the bus is running 6 minutes late, read. You get what I'm saying. The flip side of that, if you are someone who, like me, is a staunch physical book girly, I hate to say it, we're gonna have to get bigger bags. I have started making it a mission of mine to take a book with me everywhere I go, regardless of whether I think I'm actually going to have time to read. I have found this to be a struggle with some of the sizes of the bags that I own. A book just ain't fitting in there. So this is where you're going to have to make some changes to your lifestyle. Get a Kindle, get a bigger bag, take a book with you. Sometimes we think if we're not able to like get a good chunk in, then it doesn't count. But like, if you're finding pockets of time, like 3 minutes here, 6 minutes there, 15 minutes here, across the whole span of your waking day, that adds up, and it's going to add up really, really fast. And you'll find that you're getting through a lot more pages than you would have anticipated if you're just making a concerted effort to take your book everywhere with you where you go. The next tip is a very simple one, and that is to start DNFing books. And this is a lesson I need to learn. Do as I say, not as I do. Reading is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be joyful. It's supposed to bring you happiness and calm. It's supposed to be a hobby. It's not supposed to be a chore. And if you are forcing yourself to read things that feel like chores, you're not going to want to do it. No one wants to do their taxes, right? You do your taxes each year because you have to. No one gets excited about doing their taxes, so why would you be excited about reading a book that you don't like? If you are forcing yourself to slog through things that you don't like, you're not going to enjoy the time. You will like Pavlovian dog yourself into not wanting to read. You're going to end up in a reading slump, and you'll read things slower because you're forcing yourself to get through them. So if you're really wanting to like up your numbers per year, just start DNFing books. I mean, you can include them in your read count. I'm not going to tell anyone. You know, you don't have to tell anyone. You know, we talk about honesty a lot in this world. Sometimes I think it's okay to keep things to ourselves. And that includes DNFing books, but counting them towards your yearly reading goal. I would like to preface, I have not done this yet this year, but I did do it a lot last year. Okay, my next tip, and again, this one, you know, we don't love Amazon, and I actually don't know if any other reading tracking apps do this. They probably do. So I will say this one's not specific to Goodreads, but I do really like the function on Goodreads where it allows you to befriend people, and then it allows you to have the reading challenge, and you can follow along with your friends' reading challenges. The year before, I was in a heated competition with one of my co-workers at the bookshop I used to work at to see who could read the most in a year. And let me tell you, as the competitive to a fault person that I am, nothing lit a fire under my ass and forced me to go home and like devour a book than knowing that the friend I was in a competition with was 2 books ahead of me. I would go home and I'd be like, right, this weekend I have to get through 4 books, and I shan't be doing anything else until I get through 4 books. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. And did I win that competition? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Get in a competition with your friends. Or if you are someone like me who's like a content creator or whatever, if you have like an audience, get in a competition with them. Like start a little reading challenge with your friends, with your co-workers, with anyone that you can. And if you are competitive, that will light a sweet, sweet little tushy fire, and you will find yourself reading more purely out of spite and an urgent need to win in everything that you do. Really don't know if like Fable or any of the other tracking websites let you do that kind of competitive tracking thing, but I know that the Goodreads reading challenge makes it really, really easy for you to do it. You just have to put the date you started reading the book and the day you finish, and it adds it in, and you can track and compare with all your friends. I think it's a really great feature, and yeah, if you're someone who's super competitive, it's a really good way to get into basically just blitzing through things just so you can win. The next tip is a little bit of an odd one and is definitely not going to be for everyone, but that is to start producing book content. And I don't necessarily mean you need to sit down like this and dedicate yourself to filming like a 20 to 40 minute video every week. It could be as simple as making sure that when you post something, you're posting like a little picture and a little review and a little blurb on your Instagram, and you make it that part of what is fun for reading for you is posting about it, whether it doesn't have to even necessarily be in a public sphere. You know, you could just craft a little like book corner of the internet with like your private Instagram with just your friends. But making part of the joy of reading, being able to craft the content and share the recommendations with your friends, because as we all know, my main love language is book recommendations. If you're someone like me who gets so much joy out of recommending books or content or videos or movies or whatever to your friends and seeing them really enjoy it, creating content around specifically books will help bring a bit of structure and bring a bit of like necessity to your reading, because you're like, well, I have to finish another book this week because I simply must update my audience on my book journey. Nothing has helped me, with the exception of right now, because I am so deeply depressed and I've been in a reading slump for about a month and a half now. With the exception of this time period, nothing has lit a fire under my bum like starting this channel and feeling like I want to be getting through a good amount of books per week or per month so I can recommend them to you guys, because I feel a sense of responsibility. Like, you're probably all listening to this being like, sure, Jan.
Sure, Jan.
But I do. I feel like sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, but I do feel what I would describe as a helpful level of pressure to continually be consuming new content in a way that is both consistent but also thoughtful. It's not helpful for me to blitz through books and not maintain or retain any information about them, because then when I sit down to film these videos, I'm like, what happened? What happened in that? That kind of segues nicely into my next tip, which is conscious consumption. Yes, it is wonderful to look at all these amazing booktubers who get through like 300 books a year. But I'm sorry, I'm going to say something controversial but brave. If you are mainlining audiobooks at 2 times speed and getting through like 7 a week, I'm sorry, but you're not reading, okay? I don't want to get into the debate of whether audiobooks are reading or not. We're not doing that. But I will be staunch and say, if you're listening to audiobooks at 2 times speed and going through like 4 a week, there is simply no way that your brain is retaining all that information, and you cannot convince me otherwise. So I think a way, if you're looking to fit more reading into your everyday schedule, conscious consumption, because lest we forget, it's not always about volume. If you've read 150 books in a year, but you have A, not retained any of the information about the books, and B, not enjoyed 90% of them, what was the point? What was the point? However, if you're consciously consuming, let's say you've got through 10 books a year, but you annotated all 10 of those and you kept careful notes about all 10 of those, and you could very succinctly and concisely tell someone about what you enjoyed or didn't enjoy about that book. You can recall specific parts of that book. I would argue that is, you've done more reading in a year than someone who has blitzed through 300 books and hasn't retained a single ounce of information about any of them. So conscious consumption, what I have started doing is I've got a little tiny journal that I keep by my side as I'm reading. and I just jot down my thoughts about the book as I'm going. I jot down any quotes that really, really speak to me or whatever, rather than having to underline them in the actual book. But it has helped. I've only been doing this now for a couple of weeks, but it has helped my retention for not only the general plot overview, but really my detailed thoughts on something. It has helped that substantially. So I would say that in the last few weeks, despite the fact that I have been in a bit of a reading slump and barely reading anything at all, what I have been reading, I would say I have been consuming it in a much more thoughtful and conscious way than books that I have previously read earlier on in the year. The last tip I'm going to talk about, because let's be so for real, we knew that I wasn't getting through a video without recommending you guys some books. That is, if you are struggling to make it all the way through a novel from start to finish, try short story collections. I think it makes it easier to stop and start and bounce around and pick where from the book you want to read. But also I think you get like a little cheeky dopamine hit, because you can lie to your brain and convince yourself that you're reading several small little books rather than like 4 big ones. So the ones I'm going to talk about, I've tried to pick quite different ones. The first one I'm going to talk about is Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung. This is I believe it's a Korean, translated from Korean, and it's a collection of horror short stories. And let me tell you, when I read the first one, I was like, oh, I see what I'm in for. The first story in this collection is literally about a woman who basically a thing starts to grow in her toilet out of her poop and pee and used period products. And it like grows into like a head that calls her mummy. And yeah, these are twisted, these are weird. If you are someone who doesn't like body horror and doesn't like gore, this is not the one for you. But if you are someone who's open to like a little bit of like weirdness, yes, but also like a bit of like, what the fuck did I just read? Like, what? Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung. In this book, there are 10 short stories in here. So if you want to lie to yourself, you can be like, I didn't read 1 book, I read 10. And you know what? It's your life, so I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. The next book I want to recommend is technically not short stories, okay? Don't yell at me. That is 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl by Mona Awad. The reason that I'm including this in a short story is, while this is about one character and about her life, the way that it is written, which is the 13 different chapters that are all set at different points of this woman's life, told from different characters' perspectives. I do think if you were wanting to jump around and not necessarily read this in chronological order, you could, and it would also make it very easy to stop and start, because as I said, it's a skinny book, there's 13 chapters, like the chapters are not particularly long. This is beautifully written. I have yapped about this book on this channel before, and I love. I think Mona Awad just writes women's stories so wonderfully, and this is no exception. 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl by Mona Awad. The next book I want to recommend, this is technically the second one in the series. I think the first one's better, but I don't know where my copy of the first one has gone, so I'm just using this as a stand-in, and that is Tales from the Wicked Wood by Isabel Carmody. This is a collection of twisted fairy tales. They're essentially old school like Grimm Brothers fairy tales that have been retold by an Australian author called Isabel Carmody. I am a little sucker for fairy tales. I fucking love them, and this is no exception. So sorry, I actually need to correct myself. This is not written by Isabel Carmody. It's written by, all of the stories are written by individual authors, and it's gathered and edited, I assume, by an Australian author called Isabel Carmody and Nan McNabb. I believe in the first one, Isabel Carmody has actually contributed to some of the stories, but in this one, it's 6 totally different authors. As I said, I would recommend the first one more, but if you're someone who likes romantasy or fairy tales or twisted fairy tales or like the Brothers Grimm, Tales of the Wicked Wood. The last collection of short stories I'm going to recommend is a newbie. I've talked about it on this channel before. It is My Lord, My Savior, My Jesus Christ, Eliza Clark, and She's Always Hungry. This is her collection of short stories that she released at the end of last year, I believe. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it was this year. I don't know. My long-term memory retention's not great at the moment. So this is 11 different short stories. They all kind of revolve around a similar theme of like hunger, which I guess can be very loosely translated into like you're hungry for fame, you're hungry for money, you're hungry for something in your life, but also like actual food hunger. A lot of these center around like the beauty standards placed on women, but not all of them. But my favorite ones, we know I love to read about that shit. But Eliza Clark, again, just absolutely knocking it out of the park. I would highly recommend this collection of short stories if you're looking for something. Again, there's 11 stories packed into this bad boy. You can trick your little raccoon brain into thinking that you are reading a lot more than you actually are. And yes, that's what we're all about, the serotonin dopamine tricks on this channel. So I hope that has been helpful. I know this is like a little bit of a different video where I just kind of sit down and talk at you for like 20 minutes. I know a lot of people ask me like, oh, how do you find time to read so much? It does help that generally speaking, I am a quick reader, but as I mentioned, aside from my current reading slump, I am pretty consistently using either one or a combination of all of those tips to encourage myself to read and to be always picking up a book. Usually it's rare that I go a day without at least getting 10-20 minutes in, but I just think, yeah, all of those tips, as well as the obvious one, which is just like carving out pockets of time with which to read. If you have a commute, take a book. If you go into the doctor's office and you know it's going to be a wait, take a book. But I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you've made it this far, leave me a little bean emoji. Yeah, or like a little vegetable emoji, so I know who the real ones are, getting all the way through to the end and listening to me talk shit for like 20 minutes. I hope you're all having a fantastic week. Thank you to everyone who leaves comments. I feel so lucky to have like carved out this beautiful... You're all the best, and you make my week with some of the comments you leave me, and you're all bringing me so much joy and happiness in a time in my life where there isn't all that much joy and happiness. So thank you so much for doing that. I hope you all have a beautiful week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, don't leave a mean comment or I will cry, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah!